Right now, without your permission and without you noticing, your own mind is quietly rewriting your memories, inventing explanations for things it doesn't actually understand, and convincing you that all of it is simply the truth. This isn't a rare malfunction that happens to a few unlucky people under unusual stress. It's happening to you constantly every single day, and the reason it's so difficult to catch is that none of it ever feels like a lie from the inside. It feels like clarity, like memory, like plain, obvious perception. I want to walk you through exactly how your own mind does this, because once you understand the mechanism, you stop being quite so at the mercy of it. And you start making decisions based on something closer to what's actually true, rather than what your mind has simply decided to tell you. Section 1. Memory isn't a recording, it's a reconstruction. The first lie is one of the most consequential, and it concerns the very thing most people trust the most, their own memory. We tend to imagine memory as something like a video recording, an accurate capture of an event, filed away and retrieved intact whenever we need it. That's not how it actually works. Every time you recall a memory, your brain isn't retrieving a fixed recording. It's reconstructing the event from fragments, filling in gaps with plausible details, and subtly reshaping the whole thing based on how you're currently feeling, what you currently believe, and what's happened to you since. This means a memory can change slightly every single time you recall it, without you ever noticing the shift, because each new version feels exactly as vivid and certain as the last one did. This is why two people can remember the same shared event in genuinely contradictory ways, both completely convinced their version is accurate, because neither of them is lying. They're both reporting an honest reconstruction that has quietly drifted from what actually happened, shaped by everything that's occurred in their mind since. Section 2. It invents reasons for things it doesn't actually know. Here's a stranger one, and it's uncomfortable once you really sit with it. When your brain doesn't have direct access to the actual reason behind one of your own decisions or reactions, it doesn't respond with genuine uncertainty. It quietly invents a plausible explanation and presents that invention to you with the exact same confidence it would offer a genuinely known fact. You feel a sudden shift in mood, and your mind immediately attaches it to whatever explanation happens to be available, a comment someone made, something you saw earlier, even when the actual cause was something entirely different, maybe simple fatigue or hunger that had nothing to do with the story your mind just constructed. This isn't dishonesty in any conscious sense. Your mind genuinely believes the explanation it just generated. Because generating a coherent story is simply what it does whenever a gap in understanding appears, filling that gap automatically rather than leaving it honestly unresolved. The danger here is that these invented explanations feel identical from the inside to genuine insight, which means you can spend years confidently explaining your own behavior using reasons that were never actually accurate, simply because your mind preferred a coherent story over an honest admission of not knowing. Section 3. It rewrites the past to match what you know now. Once an outcome is known, your brain quietly goes back and edits your memory of how certain you were before that outcome happened, making the past feel more predictable than it genuinely was in the moment. After something works out, you remember having more confidence in it than you actually had at the time. After something fails, you remember having more doubt about it than you actually expressed before it collapsed. This distortion feels completely invisible while it's happening, because you're not consciously choosing to misremember your earlier state of mind. Your brain is simply reconstructing that earlier confidence level using the information you have now, information that of course wasn't available to you back then. The cost of this distortion is significant because it robs you of an honest account of how uncertain you genuinely were before an outcome was known, which is precisely the information you'd need to accurately calibrate your judgment going forward. If you consistently believe you knew things in advance that you actually didn't, you never learn the real lesson available in a mistake or a success, because your memory has already quietly smoothed over the genuine uncertainty that was actually present in the moment. Section 4. It predicts the future using whatever you feel right now. Your mind is also remarkably unreliable when it comes to imagining how you'll feel later, and the specific reason is worth understanding clearly. When you try to predict your future emotional state, your brain doesn't actually run an accurate simulation of that future situation. It largely just projects your current emotional state forward onto it. If you're anxious right now, the future you imagine feels more threatening than it's actually likely to be. If you're in a good mood, decisions made in that state tend to underestimate genuine future risk. This is why a decision made during a moment of intense excitement or intense distress so often looks entirely different in hindsight, once the emotional state that generated the prediction has actually passed. The mind was never running an honest simulation of the future in either case. It was simply extending whatever it happened to be feeling in the present moment and calling that extension a prediction. Recognizing this pattern is genuinely useful because it means treating any major decision made during an unusually intense emotional state with real suspicion. Not because the emotion itself is wrong, but because the forecast it's currently generating is far less reliable than it feels. Section 5, it shows you what it expects, not what's actually there. There's a deeper layer to all of this, and it concerns perception itself, not just memory or prediction. Your brain doesn't passively receive raw information from the world and hand it to you unfiltered. It actively constructs your perception using expectation as a major input. Which means you frequently see, hear, and notice exactly what you already expected to find, while genuinely failing to register information that contradicts it. This is why once you form a belief about a person, you tend to notice everything that confirms it and quietly overlook everything that doesn't, not through deliberate bias, but because your perception itself has been shaped in real time by the expectation you walked in with. The unsettling part is that this doesn't feel like filtering from the inside. It feels like simply observing reality directly and accurately. You're not aware of what got filtered out because the entire point of the mechanism is that the filtered material never reaches conscious awareness in the first place. This is precisely why changing someone's mind with contradicting evidence is so difficult. The evidence often isn't even fully registering as evidence. It's being quietly filtered before it has the chance to challenge the existing expectation at all. Section 6, this isn't a malfunction, and here's how to work with it. Every one of these distortions exists for a genuinely good reason. They're not glitches. They're efficient shortcuts that let your brain operate quickly in a world that would be impossibly overwhelming to process with complete, unfiltered accuracy at every single moment. Understanding this changes the goal. You're not trying to eliminate these mechanisms. That's not actually possible. You're trying to build a healthy suspicion of your own certainty in specific, predictable situations where these distortions are most likely to be operating. Treat a vivid memory of an old conversation with real humility, knowing it's a reconstruction, not a recording. Notice when you're offering a confident explanation for your own behavior and ask honestly whether you actually know that, or whether your mind just filled a convenient gap. Be skeptical of how certain you now feel you were before an outcome you already know. Treat major decisions made during emotional extremes as provisional, worth revisiting once that state has passed. And actively seek out information that could contradict your current expectations, specifically because your perception is otherwise quietly filtering that contradicting information out before it ever reaches you. Closing, holding your own certainty a little more loosely. None of this means you can't trust your own mind at all. That would be its own kind of distortion, an overcorrection into permanent, paralyzing doubt about everything. What it means is learning to hold your own sense of certainty a little more loosely than you're naturally inclined to, especially in exactly the situations we've walked through today: memory, self-explanation, hindsight, emotional forecasting, and expectation-driven perception. The people who make consistently better decisions aren't the ones with more accurate brains than everyone else. Every human brain runs these same shortcuts. They're the ones who have learned to recognize the specific moments where those shortcuts are most likely to be misleading them, and who have built the habit of checking gently and honestly before fully trusting what feels like obvious, undeniable truth. Your brain isn't lying to you out of malice. It's doing exactly what it was built to do, efficiently, quickly, and with far more confidence than the actual accuracy of the process deserves. Knowing that quietly in the background of every decision you make from here forward is one of the most genuinely useful things you can carry with you.